A very good morning to you. It's good to see you right here on Your World. Hoping that you have had a better start to the day. My name is Winnie Lubembe, and today we want to tackle data privacy, but we want to understand how are we able to enhance safety, and this is in the digital world, because we can all agree that modern technology has become a vital part of our lives, impacting the way we live and interact. It has undeniably simplified many aspects of our lives, making tasks more simple and efficient. From cell phones that connect us to the world at our fingertips to smart homes that streamline our daily routines. However, it is also equally crucial to recognize that technology has its drawbacks, and privacy issues, for one, have become a big concern, with risks of data breaches and identity theft. So on today's show, we want to explore different ways to enhance safety and empower individuals to make the most of their digital experiences. And to help us with that conversation, gentlemen, it's like a whole, gentleman panel, but it's so good to have you. This morning on my immediate left, we have Cephas Okal, who is a cybersecurity expert. Good to have you this morning. Thank you so much for making time for us. And we also have Richard Monday, who's a Vice President, Africa, Opera Software. Good to have you this morning, Monday on a Wednesday.
Exactly.
It's good to have you. Thank you so much for making time for us as well, right here on Your World. And last but not least, we have Albert Kimani, who is the Head of Programs and Strategy, Powerland Project. Good to have you as well this morning. So, Cephas, let me just start with you, being the cybersecurity experts in the house this morning. We're told that technology is dual in nature. Can we just first of all start from the basics and get to understand how this is the case?
Again, when you look just in a nutshell, you have the pros and cons. What can it do in terms of advancing how we live, how we work, and how we do things? And at the same time, how does it work against us, yes, in terms of the negativities that come with it? So in a nutshell, that's how you look at it. It's a flip side to a coin.
It's a flip side to the same. So Richard, would you say there's more cons to pros, or there's more pros to cons as far as technology is concerned, and being in this space, and this is as far as Opera Software is concerned? Most of us used to call it opera, but it's opera, right? Yes. So being in this space, what would you say, more pros and cons versus pros?
I agree with Cephas. I think it's a double-edged sword, but I think there are a lot of pros.
Okay, a lot of pros, which again we'll go deeper into the same, just to see how that works for us. I mean, in the case of opera, we've been around for what? Over 25 years, and there has been advances.
A lot of advances. A lot of advances. I mean, most of our users now are on smartphones, although in Kenya still 50% are on feature phones. But no, massive advances, and obviously some things holding us back, but in general, really positive.
All right, some things holding you back. We'll get to understand what exactly those are. Okay. And Richard, you said something in your profile, and that his technology is not just a tool, but a catalyst for change. So, Albert, I want to understand again from you, what exactly does this mean? Because I read that on your profile. It's one of the things that was highlighted as well.
From where I'm seated, technology is a driver for change, and there are more pros than cons eventually. So what we're doing is we're building tech talents, and those tech talents in turn create tech solutions for the challenges their community is facing. So more pros definitely than cons when it comes to tech.
When it comes to technology. Okay. So then can we just get to understand what are some of the primary ways that technology has, transformed people's lives? And we're talking about their personal and professional lives as well. Richard, what would you say?
Well, I think it's driven business. I mean, there's a direct correlation between internet penetration and GDP. So, you know, people trading online, people doing business online, it's fundamental now today.
Okay. All right. Cephas, do you want to add to the same?
Sure.
Different ways, yeah.
Just to bounce off what Richard said, and why it's a really advancement. When you look at Kenya, yes, we're in the third world country, but you'd be really surprised. Technological advancement like M-Pesa is a case study at all the major European universities. When you look at the founder of cryptocurrency, or rather Bitcoin, he actually studied how the M-Pesa platform works. And built his blockchain platform around it. So when you talk about advancements and how good they are, I mean, it's clear as day that this is actually happening. And Kenya is actually among the pioneers in Africa and even the world when it comes to digital advancements, more so on the e-commerce side of things.
Yeah. All right. And on a business level, what would you say Albert technology has advanced? Because again, like we said, there are pros and cons towards the same, focusing a little bit on the pros. But yes, in what ways would you say technology has, you know, influenced people's way in businesses and how we conduct businesses as well?
First of all, the ease of starting business, definitely. That's, you know, it's easier to start and, you know, businesses and scale them with technology right now than it was 10, 15 years ago. Look at now, we are adding tech to everything, health tech, ed tech, fintech. Everything now it's deviating towards tech. You're bringing all these solutions which can be converted into value and, you know, scalable business models, not only in Kenya, but across Africa through tech. So definitely it has done wonders for the business environment and all these wonderful things that business are able to do in terms of delivering products and value to customers.
Okay, so we cannot talk about technology without talking about data, right? And I think this is where there's a lot of cons as far as technology is concerned. Can we just first of all get to understand data in itself, the value of data and why it is so important for every one of us to be mindful of what information we're putting out there. And I'll share, there's a story of this guy who was, you know, listening to his podcast this morning, and he said, there's no way that we can protect data. There's absolutely no way that we can do that because there's so many avenues, you know, that we put out information, sometimes knowingly, sometimes unknowingly, and that gets to us. It gets back at us. So can we first of all just get to understand data in itself, how important, what exactly is the value of data?
Maybe just as a starter to unpack what he said. There's no 100% way to protect. But we can. Yes, not to absolutely, but you can do that. And
to minimize the damage in a way.
Yes. Just to everything, even in life. That's why you have insurance and every other aspect to mitigate. And sadly, when you go back to saying we as humans aren't perfect, again, data is created by human, and that's why there's no certainty to anything that we do beyond it and how to safeguard. But measures are there to do that. And again, if you look at the revolutions that have happened in the world over the centuries, this is the first evolution that was not tangible. Because we talked about oil manufacturing, now we're talking about an intangible asset, data. So it's still something new, it's a new frontier. So sadly we've been making it up as we go along, and that is why when you look at the different revolutions, this tends to have a bit more cons than pros.
And you know, most of the time when we talk about data, a lot of people tend to think, oh, it's the pictures that I post online. It's maybe information that I fill out, credit card, you know, for example, all those things. Can we just get to understand really, when we talk about our digital presence, you know, and data at that, to what extent, to what levels would you say, you know, this is data that exists somewhere that someone can have access to and maybe use it against you?
Again, we're living in a digital space world, right, where everything is stored what you call the cloud, but more or less these are just servers that sit in a different continent. Of course, with the advancements now in Kenya, we do have data centers that sit here in Kenya. So as long as you have your data out there, where you do not have a say on how it is stored and used, you'll always be susceptible to it. But we love the fancy terminologies that come with it, or it's stored on, let's say, Facebook cloud, so I mean it's safe. It's stored on Microsoft. So we make that assumption, and I mean, ignorance is bliss. So when you know, because I read a disclaimer saying they are fail-proof or foolproof, then I'm good to go. But the thing is, you do not actually know where your data is, what are the safeguard measures against it. So why not start taking ownership? And that's the whole thing about online privacy and data protection. Learn how to safeguard first, be your first line of defense, then now let where your data sits, and based on what they tell you, to be a second line of defense. Don't just make assumptions. It's the same way we know we have police out there manning us on the street, but does it mean you don't lock your door at night?
You do.
So be your first line of defense, and that's what really matters. Because again, over the last few weeks we've seen Microsoft are being hacked, and all our data is there. We used to think it's safe.
We were hacked as a country at some point. Okay,
exactly.
There's a bit of a debate on the same whether we were or not, but well,
it's a give or take when it comes to that. But just to mention where we have our data, Facebook, we've heard all about it, Skype and the likes. So that assumption that as long as my data is out there with a very known company, then I'm good to go. That means it's safe. This isn't the case. Because truth be told, anyone can be hacked, from an individual to a big corporation.
Okay. So then the big question is, so how then do we balance? Because you see, we cannot say, I do not care about the digital space. I'm not going to be on the digital space at any given point. At some point, we'll be there. It's important for us to be connected, right? So then how much do we put out? How much do we safeguard? And even the ones that we're safeguarding, how safe are they? Because like you said, all this data is just seated somewhere, you know, either in the country or outside the country. So the big question is then, how do I balance? How do I know how much I put out and how safe they are? But let me hear from Richard again. You know, running a software company, and you would say most of the times, most of the phones that we have come pre-installed with some of these applications. So it's very easy for someone to just log in, you know, create an account and all those things, and that's it. So how much of data, that is personal data, is poured out on this application that we honestly need to sort of like run our lives on a day-to-day basis? But
I think we need to remember that because it's a digital world, pretty much every click we do is traced. So every website you go to, every action you take. So we have to be mindful of that. Look, and I think there's two sides to this. There's the user side, but there's also the regulatory side. So as a Norwegian company, we're subject to GDPR and all the EU protection and data laws, and they're pretty much some of the most advanced in the world. We run those across our entire group of companies, so even our internal processing has to comply with this. So I think that's really important. I think it's important to help educate users in terms of digital literacy, to understand what is happening with their data, and to help them understand what products and services they use and what features these services provide to protect them. So with Mini, you're protected from malicious websites, ad blocking, all these types of features. But I think it's a responsibility, as Sifa said, on the consumer, but I think also from the companies that create the products and the regulators. And I think those stakeholders need to come together to try and solve that problem.
But how then can they reach this? Because it's a massive, population. They might not be able to reach every single person. I mean, they can actually. It's technology, right? But then how do they do it? Because there's so many people who don't.
They can't really.
Understand.
Because, I mean, I was saying earlier, 50% of our users are on feature phones. Now, ironically, they are safer than people on smartphones.
True. Facts.
So
yes. So they can.
It's the guys with smartphones
who are in trouble. So then what is it?
Have to be more wary.
So then what is it from your perspective? What is it that then people need to know with the fact that yes, we have smartphones. People will tell you, I'm conducting businesses. I am sort of like running my life on my smartphone. So what is it that then people need to know about smartphones, about installing apps, about these apps that have already been pre-installed into the? What is it that people need to first of all know, as far as their data is concerned, whether they put out or not? Because like you said, every single click right? That is information that someone can access and use it, you know, against you as a consumer.
Yeah, and most of the handsets you can go in and turn off. You can go in and turn off particular apps that you don't want tracking you.
Okay.
So it's basic stuff like that. It's pretty much all you can do.
Okay. All right.
Just to
bounce off, very quickly, and then we'll come to
just to bounce off, Richard.
Yeah.
I think it's high time we have we have what you call a public and private participation engagement. More so in regards to, you see, like what Communications Authority do. They do campaign ads based on child online protection, but now we need to widen that scope and talk about cyber hygiene. Basics where, you know, this is not just focused on corporates or businesses, but even individuals. So simple things like online privacy. What are the 101s to know when you use a smartphone? So these are the kind of educations that currently isn't there in place on a large scale to help people understand. So how to go about it, I mean, it involves both the private and the public through government to be able to do sensitizations for people to be really aware when you're using a smartphone. It's not just about your own personal data, but you're affecting the larger, the larger people, well. Even as a country. And these are the important things to do. Case in point, like what happened last month. Knowing that it's not your phone alone and just for you, but your phone can be used in a grander scheme of things to affect the entire country as a whole.
Yeah. All right. I mean, you're here. You're the cybersecurity experts in the room, so probably you help us understand, you know, the do's and don'ts in how we maneuver this here. Because, like you said, we cannot wish technology away. If anything, it's advancing every single day. So then, how we navigate the space is very important for all of us to understand. Albert, we have, I mean, smart TVs at home. We have our laptops, we have our phones, our homes, you know, we have gadgets and devices that you'll just issue a command and it does everything for you. But then again, a lot of people would not really understand the risk they are in with all those things, because we need them, but at the same time, like we said, there's also the you know, the cons aspect of the same. So understanding how to, yes, use these gadgets, but also a little bit be cautious of how much, you know, info you feed into it. Again, like Richard said, whatever click that can be traced. And this guy, you know, that was saying, he said, I contacted a few companies and asked for my data. And he was given hundreds and thousands of pages. And one of the things that he was so shocked to realize is the fact that they gave him emails and posts and whatnot that he did in high school and in primary school. And he was like, that was like 40 years ago. So whatever it is that is on the internet stays forever. So then how do we navigate this space very cautiously with our smart TVs and laptops and whatnot?
I think it goes deeper than that.
Okay.
Your every waking moment is a data point. Where you are, there's a device collecting all that, who you're talking to, how often you talk to them. When you sleep, when you wake up, it's collecting all that. Second is to demystify all things. When you hear cybersecurity, you think of people stealing your money, people... I
mean, there's that too.
Yes, that's what comes to mind. But it's protecting all these data points that can be used against you in any sort of way, or people can, you know, acquire those kind of resources, or because data is a resource, and use it either maliciously or act like you in other platforms and maybe misrepresent you. So it's not always about stealing your money and all that. It has even broader implications in terms of your representation. Someone posing as you online and you know, posting all manner kinds of things before you clear your name. That's still part of data security. And they're drawing all those talking points from your data, maybe from things they collected, maybe from your phone, or things they collected, you know, from all your activity online, which is recorded from your devices, from your TVs, like you said. So I think the rule of thumb is don't give away any data point if you don't need to. Don't have apps if you don't need those apps on your phone. If you don't use them, go through your phone, see the least used apps, and clear them.
Okay. Okay, all right. Let's take a break because I have so many questions still on the same. Yes, there are some apps you might find that you have on your phone. You don't, use it as often. But you know how the brain tells you, but I might actually need it at some point, right? And again, like you said, people don't really understand the value of data. So sometimes we'll just give it away. Case in point, WorldCoin, right? Just recently, there's still a whole lot of debate surrounding the same. People were given some money in exchange for their data, which again, most of them did not really understand what they were getting themselves into. So like we said, you are the cyber security experts in the panel, all right? So then you let us know. So what is it? What is it that we really need to know about data? Because like you said, we cannot put a figure to it. It's invaluable. So we need to protect it as much as possible. But there's also that question of, so now these companies that tell us your information is secure, we will not share it with anyone. And then your data from your smartwatch that monitors your sleep, you find that information online as well. So then what is it that we need to know and how much of information we need to share? But we're taking a very short break right here on Your World. You want to stay around. When we come back from the break, still much more to go through as far as enhancing security or safety when it comes to the digital space. Stay with us. All right, welcome back. The show is Your World, and today it's all about data privacy, and we're looking for different ways that we can enhance safety when it comes to the digital space, because like we said, again, technology is here with us. It's here to stay. If anything, it is advancing. So how then do we navigate? Because again, we looked at the pros and the cons, but I think my panel is agreeing and saying, listen, the buck stops with you as a user, as a person, because now you have to figure out how much of information you're putting out. But my biggest question on the information that we're not putting out, okay? But still, one way or the other, someone has access to it. So the biggest question for so many people is how safe is our data? Like, how safe is it? The fact that I have not put out anything, but still you can access some of this information one way or the other. Maybe I'm just busy looking for a shoe online or talking about it, and then you see it on your phone and you're like, wait, what exactly is happening? How much access do people have? But even before that, I mean, Richard, you're talking about feature phones and how much, again, a lot of people are still using feature phones. We need to be very careful for those of us who are using smartphones and looking to different ways to advance the experience that we're getting from our smartphones, that sometimes we tend to install apps that might not necessarily be safe. So I wonder what the danger is, because like we said earlier on, we need to really understand these things. And then maybe Albert will talk about public Wi-Fi. We're always advised, do not use public Wi-Fi. But sometimes we cannot help it. But again, Richard first, in terms of understanding how much access, even when you're just speaking, maybe someone is tapping into your phone. These applications that we're installing on our phones, and how much risk they pose to us as a people.
Yeah, I think the issue, I think the difficult thing for the consumer on that is you're going to go to the Google Play Store and download an app. So you trust that the fact that it's got through the Play Store hurdles to get on the Play Store, there's going to be an element of safety there. I think the problem is that once you've downloaded that app, you're going to click some T's and C's, and for me this has always been an issue. Okay. When you read the T's and C's, it's 4.5 pages in tiny text of legal jargon that you don't as a consumer understand. And I think that's something that could be addressed. Just to make it simpler. So if this app is collecting my data, is this app sharing my data with other apps?
The third party.
I'm sure it is. Have I signed up for that? I think it's things like that.
Okay. And now, like when you're browsing, right? So go through the different sites. There's cookies is accept all, deny all, and all those things. Most of us, the first thing that comes to mind is accept all, moving forward. Okay, so I wonder what the danger, that is, and how much of permission we give the sites to access our information. And again, from a software, company perspective.
Yeah, well, cookies are being phased out, but for the next however long it is, I think it is an issue. I'm actually not sure what I'm actually signing up to when I click accept all, because I also do that.
Maybe just to demystify again, data is it's not wrong, because once we give this data to these companies and these businesses, it helps improve our user experiences with these products. They become better. So the issue with data security and all that is how they're using these data that you're giving them. That's the concern. And that's where now you're bringing all these players. The regulator, EU has some of the best data regulations in place that even catches all the other companies working in EU, all these fines being given to Facebook, all these other apps, because they're misusing the data, or they're not maybe declaring what their intention with the data. So it's not about giving data. It's okay, it helps improve user experience, but it's what those entities and those businesses are using the data for.
But you see, at that point, then,
do you think it really helps the user experience? I mean, I think the reason that these companies want data is simple. They're trying to sell you. They're trying to sell advertising.
Yes,
that's it. I'm not sure it's helping the user experience.
The user experience.
I mean, that's the use.
When we want to help the user, we run focus groups on specific features that we might be introducing to the product, and are they useful? Do they help? How would you use them? How would you interact with them? I think the data thing's slightly different.
And again, I hear what he's saying, because again, yes, so the companies themselves would decide what they want to do with this data. But you see, I have not given them permission. The fact that you have my data does not give you permission to just use it whatever, because I might not know. Like that happens on the back end.
You clicked on I accept and agree to the terms and conditions.
Without going through the 4 or 5 pages
of the
So you've already
sort of given them, you've consented to their use of your data.
Okay.
So hence the regulator coming in and saying this is how you can use this data.
Okay.
So, and on the flip side, they're making money with your data, and you're not getting anything.
Yeah.
But
so
you're
what
getting a free service.
Don't click.
And I think that's the trade-off.
Yeah.
You're getting. I mean, with Mini, sure, it's a free app.
Yeah.
We're compressing 90% of your data, so your cost of access is incredibly cheap. We actually don't collect a lot of data because we've signed up to GDPR, so we have to be exceedingly careful what we do and don't do. So I think you have to. It's like any product or service you go and buy. You're going to get a different experience walking into the BMW showroom than you are going to a second-hand car trader on the street.
Yeah. Okay.
You see, that's the biggest conundrum. Yes, when it comes to jurisdiction. Yes, I've allowed you to use my data because you're giving me free, and free I mean quote unquote, because it's my data being used. But to give a good example of recent past, especially what happened in the US. Facebook, you give Facebook access to your data to use it. Yes. But when you look at the end user license agreement, what you call the T's and C's, you did not give authority or authorization for you to hand over my data to Cambridge Analytica. Yes. So these are the kind of things we're talking about. And in the legal, in the digital space, jurisdiction, and I love this terminology that lawyers use, jurisprudence. I usually call it the tech jurisprudence. It's really going to take time for us to really fine-tune it to a point of how and when do I know that my data is being hived off to a third party. And it goes back again to what Richard was saying. Compliance and the acts we put in place as a government, that they really need to fine-tune this. And simple things as we mentioned, penalties, imposed on you when you go against what your consumer allowed you to do. And for us, again, we need to appreciate the government has started this act, but there's a need for us to really catch up, yes, because data won't stop growing.
I mean, that's true.
The internet usage in Kenya is actually just growing by the day. If you look at the coast, I mean, half a decade ago, we only had 2 submarine cables in Kenya. Right now, as we speak, we have an 8th one just landing in November. So you cannot slow down the usage of internet just to catch up in terms of compliance and the legal restrictions that need to be in place.
Okay, I see that. So the big question is, what has been working, what has not worked? Because yes, it's true, we have the Data Protection Act. But at the same time, remember what we were talking about earlier on about WorldCoin. These people did not go to people's homes and say, you need to come, you need to queue, you know, we have a bullet on your head and all those things. So there's a bit of leeway. You talked about there's nothing illegal. Like, it's just, and people don't understand this. People don't understand that when you go and, you know, get scanned, they don't understand how much of their information is being handed to this company. And since they paid you some money, they decide what they want to do with your data. So what has worked, what has not worked, and what is it that we need to really understand?
So first off, just looking at it from a consumer point of view, it's your understanding. When I'm giving off my data, what does it really mean long term? Okay. Yes, short term you've gained something, of course monetary, but long term, how will it be used against me? And that's the thing. We Kenyans, I'll speak for us Kenyans, we tend to overthink things when it comes to the digital space. Case in point, if you dropped your physical national ID, someone could use it. That's true. If we are self-conscious of that, why don't we think the same when it comes to biometric or iris scanning like what WorldCoin were doing? Then now going into a legal framework point of view, with our existing act, the DPA, your biometric, anything that belongs to you in terms of who you are, your fingerprint, your facial and iris recognition, that is what we call your personal identifiable information. You do not need any authorization apart from yourself to give it out. So whether WorldCoin came to knock at your door and you consented to it, in essence, no one is breaking the law. Okay. And that is why when you talk about how we need to enhance the Data Protection Act, yes, to such things as when a non-Kenyan entity is coming into the country to take Kenyans' data and go with it outside, what are the...
You're saying storing it, safety,
for what purpose, right? Because again, when you look at all the e-citizen and the Hudumas, that's what... The government is actually the only entity that should store your data for legal purposes or for policing purposes, yes? But when an entity like WorldCoin, who no one knew about as of last year, come and tell you they're better off keeping your data safely, which data? And safely how? So what's the first, because again, like you said, so the first, I mean, the buck stops with me. Right? So then how much of a say do I have in terms of, yes, I might be giving out, I might consented, like you said, but how much of a say do I have in terms of what you're using with my data? So do I have a right to say, absolutely no, I'm not giving you my data? But then there's that risk of now you're not going to get some of the services that you need. Sadly not, and maybe just to clarify on that. A good, when you talk about cyber hygiene, a good thing is always to do a regular checkup of your apps. Case in point, with this content creation, we now have apps that used to, you know, beautify, for example, or how do you call it? Beautify an image, right? Then you go look at the permissions it's asking you for. It's asking you permission about your location. Why do you need my location? When the only thing is you need to access the pictures on my phone and edit it. So the power is there. So when you revoke such access, and let's say something does happen in future, as you said, nothing actually gets lost on the internet. So if I on my phone history it shows I revoked access to my location. How did you know where I'm located? So when you even send me specific ads based on my location, I can actually do what? Sue you for it because I revoked those permissions. So it means you circumnavigated what I allowed you to do. So how best we can avoid this is regular checks, right? And again, like you said, internet never forgets, or your data cannot be forgotten. Yeah. But with the enhancements of GDPR and the DPA, there's what you call the data retention period. So any data of yours that is retained past that period, whoever is storing that data is liable for any litigative action. So these are the kind of digital literacy educations that we need to start teaching people.
Yeah, it's true, because a lot of people really don't know that. Whatever you do is just click whatever, you know, permission granted, go ahead. Others would ask for permission to access your emails, your contacts, your messages, and all those things, and you wonder why. Okay, so then Richard, what are some of these practical, you know, ways that we can do to, you know, sort of like protect our data? What are some of the strategies? What are some of the advancements that are in technology that will help people to protect, even as we surf through, you know, using your software as well?
One of the things we've done, we've got a regular blog on Mini, which is basically digital literacy blog, educating people on stuff they should be aware of, publish articles on that type of thing. So I think keeping up to date with you know, what is going on your phone, and understanding you know, things like crypto mining and how these malicious websites work, spyware, that type of thing. But I think there's also a job here for the education authorities in all these countries. You know, I mean, digital literacy is something that actually our kids should be being taught in school. And I know it is happening in Europe a fair bit, but I think that type of thing really, really important.
Yeah. So what is it that then Africa can borrow from Europe? You know, that can.
I don't know. I live in
potentially.
But no, I think I think you've already done that in Kenya with the DPA, which is similar to GDPR. I'm not sure if it's as thorough, but yeah, I think it's the education side.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Albert. What would you say? What are some of those things that can work? Because again, different countries, different jurisdictions, you know, have their own way of working this out. But what is it that we can borrow? Because again, like you said, they have one of the most advanced, you know, ways.
So one, I think, echoing Richard, digital education, literacy education, which we are critically engaged in. Also building talent around cybersecurity and data experts. One of the most unfortunate things is that sometimes you have, when the regulator is coming in, the experts are not within the regulator space. So you have more experts outside the regulator than inside. So how do you regulate something that you don't understand? You're not up to date. You don't have the talent in you. So we are looking to essentially build talent around all these areas, and especially around tech, so that you can have all these gaps fixed, and especially from the regulator side. In my opinion, we should have the top cybersecurity people within the employed within the data protection agency.
Okay.
Just to echo off what he said, and when you even talk about the consumers, one fundamental thing we need to understand is you can't protect yourself against what you don't understand, and again, you can't protect yourself against what you can't see. So until people are cognitive of this, then, you know, online protection, online privacy will always be an issue. And that's why it basically starts, the building blocks. What am I protecting myself against? And I need to understand what it is. All
right. You know, maybe there's some people who are watching us all the way from Shags. They have smartphones. And because most of the time, information is usually concentrated in like urban areas. So most of the time they tend to be left out, you know, when it comes to such information. So then how do we also translate in a way that, like you said, it's very easy to understand. There's not like 15 pages to go through before you say, I accept, you know, and all those things. So how then do we reach these people who might be more vulnerable, you know, as compared to the others who have a little bit of information, in as much as, again, it's not up to par, but at least understand, you know, the ABCs as far as navigating the digital space?
I love what all my panelists said. Enhancements and focus on the digital literacy education. And it goes in two ways. One which has to be you as a person, self-awareness. Because see, the beauty of Kenyans is we're very innovative. I mean, look at the rising stars who come from content creation, the likes of TikTok. And they didn't actually go to class for this. This is self-taught. So if we can do that, why can't we self-teach ourselves on how to better protect ourselves when it comes to the digital space?
Okay, all right. Let's talk about businesses, but even before that, do you want to just comment very quickly on the question about public Wi-Fis? What exactly is it about? Because we're always told, when you're public space, be very careful, you know, what you're searching online, what you're doing using a public Wi-Fi. So what exactly is it that puts me at risk? Why can't I just surf and just know that I am safe? What is it that we need to know? What is it? How do these people, first of all, get to understand what I'm doing and get access to my information?
Firstly off, simply because there's no what you call security protection mechanisms behind our public Wi-Fi. And again, the biggest issue with public Wi-Fi is, one, because it goes in two ways. There could be a public Wi-Fi that doesn't even need you to input a password. So what does that mean? Both the good and the bad people have access to it. So that is the biggest danger when it comes to public Wi-Fi. You're using it for your own means. Another person is using it to gain
to access
you and your data. So that is always the biggest issue with public Wi-Fi. Just for you to understand that you have both good intention and bad intention users on that same space. Same way, give it an example of when you're on the highway, right? You're a good driver, right? And then you see the matatus right there bullying you off the road or driving however they want to. So yes, you've watched yourself or you're taking care of yourself, but the person next to you isn't as mindful. So this is the same analogy when it comes to public Wi-Fi.
So the red flags are what you're saying. Number one, if it does not ask you for, I mean, if it does not have a password, that's a risk in itself. Don't.
And I love this new analogy. That's a red flag. So that's an ultimate red flag. And again, even if it does have a password, just by the virtue that it's public, you don't know who set it up. And that's the thing, right? You could call it a public Wi-Fi, but it's just a bad actor who's published it and said, here's a public Wi-Fi for you to use. And again, remember what I said, you cannot protect yourself against what you don't understand and what you don't see.
All right. So then what measures can businesses, Albert, put in place just to make sure that they're also protected? Because like Sifas mentioned when we started the conversation, one mistake from one individual in a business or a company or an organization might put the entire business at risk, right? So what is it? What are some of the strategies that businesses then can use to just make sure that everything is safe for the people and for the company as well?
The thing is, there are all these tools, cyber security tools, so invest in them. Second is simple things like data backups in case of breaches. Third, implement policies to the point where, one, you minimize the data exposure in case of breaches or in case of access. Second, you increase the sensitivity of your business towards these breaches so that in case it happens, and it does happen, Microsoft and Google and everyone else get hacked. So you realize it as soon as possible before a lot of damage happens. And I would go back to investing in cyber security and the security of your systems. Right now, your entire business is in your computer. Think about the fintechs. You lose your data, you lose all the people who have your loans, who has paid and all that. I've seen all these small startups, fintechs collapse because you lost all your data and someone is ransoming it out. You don't know who has your money, or the transactions that took place in the last maybe 30 days is gone. So invest in those tools, and they're some of the best tools out there in the market for cybersecurity. Finally, I think also from a tech talent point of view, also invest in talent. Get people to do audits and just check to see whether you're safe. Hire or engage people specialists in that space.
I've seen some companies also like run drills, and it's just to see how aware you know, the people, the staff are, how much of information they have. Will they be able to tell that they have been hacked or not? But again, so then how often should this happen? You're talking about investing in training and investing in talent as well. So again, from a tech point of view, how often would you advise that this should happen?
If it was up to me, every day until it becomes because it needs to be a culture, not something that you know, you do like the fire drills every month. There is a bell and then we all glow.
Everybody runs around.
But in case there is a fire right now, no one knows what to do. But those safety online and the safety of data and the entire cybersecurity policies within an organization needs to be a culture, first from an individual point of view and then an organizational point of view, so that it's a reflex and like second nature to be protective of what you're doing online and you know, your activity, from even your phones. What are your kids doing on your phone? Forget the businesses, because kids go download apps. They're playing a game and an ad pops up for these, download these, you go download. If you have kids, please do a quick sweep of your phone and see what they have been able to download.
Or even like, they usually say monitor what they're doing online, because yes, they might not download some of these things, but someone can get to them, which again might be not good for the child and for you as a person as well. So from service provider point of view, right? Richard, what is it that then, because again, like you said, enhancing a user experience does not mean, you know, that you can get access to all their data and do whatever you want just because you want them to have access to better experiences. So then what is it that, you know, service providers can do to make sure that, yes, in as much as you're browsing through, you know, our site, you're using our application, that everything that you're doing is safe and nobody else, a third party, can have access to the same. What is it that you know, you're doing?
Well, I suppose we're in a lucky position from that point of view, being a browser. We've got a built-in VPN, for instance, in Mini. So you're setting up a private connection. That's about as secure as you're going to get. So we've got other, I mean, I think building those types of features, ad blockers, or malicious website protection stuff, that sort of thing is really important. I think the other sort of fortunate thing that we've got is because we compress our data, all that data goes through a pipe, and that pipe's a direct pipe between the application and our servers. So third parties can't access that. So you have a direct HTTPS connection. But so I think it's up to the app providers to actually build stuff like this.
All right. I mean, from your experience, what are some of the things that maybe you thought worked but did not work that you had to change, you know, here, just to make sure that your customers, your consumers are a bit safer? Because like I said, in as much as technology is advancing, the hackers, the bad people, are also getting smarter by the day. So then how do you make sure that you stay on top of the game and not have any...
I think like anything in life, that's an ongoing process. You know, in the physical world, you know, I've got a key to my house. If I lose the key, I change the lock. If I give the kids the key, I make sure I know if the kids have got the key or if they've lost the key. Because, and it's the same. It's the same in the digital world with our businesses. You know, if someone wants to hack you, and they do, and you find a solution to that, you've got to be working on the next solution, because there's going to be another problem coming down the line somewhere else.
That's true.
So I think, as Albert was saying, it's a mindset, and it's a continual investment. It should be a continual investment for most businesses.
All right, I see that. Okay, so we need to end the show in literally like 2 minutes. We need to end the conversation. But again, like you said, so the buck stops with us. We need to be careful what we're posting. We need to understand, because I really like what you say. You cannot protect what you don't understand and what you don't see. So at a very basic level, in terms of enhancing yes, digital experience, but also enhancing safety. We can read, like you said. You can find these ways to just make sure that you understand what exactly is happening on a day-to-day basis. But even that, right? What else can we do very quickly? And this is from a personal level, business or corporations, and even the governments as well. And this is as far as enhancing their Data Protection Act and, you know, everything that else that comes with the scene.
So from a personal level, the easiest way to understand cybersecurity is just in 3 analogies. There's what you call people, you as the person, the process, and the technology. So what do I mean by this? If I need to access, let's say, nation website, yes, so the technology in place is my phone. The process is me doing what? Typing in NTV and searching it. Then lastly, the people, who's me as a person. So when you understand these 3 steps, you begin to understand, how do I start protecting myself? Is it my technology that I'm using isn't up to par? Or what I'm using a phone. So what do I need to do? Install an antivirus on that phone.
That one. You usually have issues with that antivirus because
but you see, that's,
some have not worked.
Yes, that's it. Again, like you said, if it's free, remember there's nothing free.
True.
When it's free, always remember you are the commodity.
Yeah.
You as a person, meaning your data
like
or your information.
Yeah.
Right? And we have now enhanced or which those few that you can pay for. But that's the thing with us, yeah? We tend to see security as a cost up until the point your data gets leaked out there. Then lastly, simple hygiene, housekeeping, things that all the viewers can start from right now. First and foremost, you need to understand my data is out there. How do I know my data is out there? So first and foremost, when it comes even to the passwords, that is the first crucial thing that you need to secure yourself with. So simple things like when you just go to Google and search, have I been pawned? Right? There's a website there, you put in your email address, it will show you from the moment you started your digital footprint to present. All the websites that have your emails and your passwords. If it's there, all you have to do is delete them. Again, as we came up, when technology was coming up, it was still new. You'll find you have 4 or 5 Facebook accounts. Then when you became a bit more professional, when you got into your career, you changed.
And just get
but then again, you forgot about the other one. So same case, when you just go say, delete my accounts. It will show you the first account you created when you were in high school.
But you said, is it free? If it's free, you're the commodity. So I'm curious about that. But we have to end the conversation now. Thank you so much, Super Sukal, cybersecurity expert, for coming by this morning. Albert Kimani, Head of Programs and Strategy, Powerland Project. Thank you so much for coming by. And Richard Monday, Vice President, Africa, Opera Software. Good to have you, gentlemen, this morning. Thank you so much for coming by today. And I'm pretty sure you've learned a lot from today's conversation. Maybe I'm still stuck at, if it's free, you're the commodity. So something for you to think about throughout the day and even throughout the week as well. Again, just be mindful, okay, of what you put out there. My name is Winnie Lubembe. Have yourselves a good one. I'll see you tomorrow morning, same time, same place, right here on Your World. Until then, stay safe and goodbye.